Yes, if you're not using ad assets, formerly known as ad extensions, assets extensions, they're the same thing. Google's just changing names on us. Then not only are you missing out on valuable clicks, you might actually be paying more than you should and missing out on valuable ad real estate. More on what the heck that means in a moment. So timestamps below, along with some other helpful links and resources, including a link to our Google Ads Playbook to help you with your keyword research, finding better buyer keywords, and of course, shortcutting the copywriting process for your ads and ad assets. Now, once you've completed your campaign, whether it's your first one or your first couple, the next thing you're going to want to do is start creating some ad assets. So we'll go through how to actually find where to make these, and then we'll rapid fire through them and then go through in more detail. So first, jumping into the interface here, from wherever you are, you can make sure that you're in your overview. You can click on Ads and Assets. Then we're going to click on Assets, formerly known as extensions. Again, they're the same thing. And you'll get to a page that looks something like this, where you'll be able to see your assets account wide, almost said extensions. And then of course, click this blue plus button to create more. So timestamps below, of course, to skip around to the asset that you're most interested in, but let's go ahead and rapid fire through some examples here. So the first one and most common type is going to be site links. These are some examples of what they look like. And essentially, this is a great way to filter people and get them directly to the page or information that they're looking for so that they can hopefully make a buying decision. And next we have callouts. And so this is where you can talk about some features or what makes you different. We'll go through more details in a moment. And again, this is just to help people make that buying decision. That's pretty much all of these, all of what these assets are designed to do. Then we have snippets, which is just a fancy way of saying a menu of items. We have call, and this is where you can put your phone number in the ad. Of course, don't do this if you're not actually going to pick up the phone or you don't have someone at your business who's going to be able to pick up the phone. Yes, you can set up a schedule for this. Next, we have lead forms, and this is where you can actually get contact information directly off of your ad without someone ever having to go to your landing page or website, and you can actually set up campaigns specifically for this type. Again, we'll go through all of this in much more detail. Then we have locations. So if you have a physical location, you can connect it to your Google business profile or whatever they're calling it, because they keep changing that name too. And then for apps, I'm going to go ahead and skip those. And finally, we have promotions and price, where you can essentially showcase whatever your product or services are and actually start giving your potential customers some ideas of what your pricing looks like compared to others. Now, what's important to note with all of these different types of assets is we don't actually get to control when they do or do not show up outside of some basic scheduling. So we're not going to be able to tell Google, hey, always show this asset or always show this call out or site link. They're going to make their own decisions based upon how much you're bidding and whatever your goal is for your campaign, because they just want to get you the most clicks possible, because that's how they make money. So they're going to rotate through these and use different combinations, but you will be able to see inside of your Google Ads account how these are performing and whether or not they're actually hurting your performance and you should turn them off, although that's pretty rare. Most of the time they actually do wind up helping. And as you can see with all of these examples that we've gone through, it makes your ad bigger. It increases your quote unquote ad real estate, which is just a fancy way of saying your ad's bigger. So hopefully people pay more attention to it. So first up, we have site links. Now, when it comes to site links, the primary goal is to filter people to the information that they need to make a buying decision. So as you can see with this particular example, these pages are all part of the buyer's journey, right? And we'll go through some examples in the moment, but what's most important is that every page that you link to is part of the buying process. So for example, we could link to an About Us page where we essentially share a little bit of information about why we believe we're the best fit for whatever your product or service is. And the key is on that page, at the bottom of that page, you have a call to action to book a call with you, to fill out a contact form or something. So you want to make sure that whatever page you're linking to, any one of these, there's a clear call to action to collect contact information or to have them call you. And of course, contact us, pretty self-explanatory. Someone just enters that information and hopefully it's a lead and not spam, although we all get so much spam. And then maybe you want to have some FAQs. So you'll answer some common questions or pre-buyer questions. And then again, at the end, you'll have a clear call to action. And of course, you could also have reviews or testimonials. And of course, any sort of case studies that you have, you want to have a call to action at the end. Now at the bottom here, we have some that you definitely don't want to link to. So don't link to your social profiles, your general blog or a general blog post or company news, right? Because we don't want to be linking to, first off, you don't want to be linking to not your website. You're paying for this traffic. And number two, we want to make sure that everything is a part of the buyer journey. We want to move people along. They just need a little information maybe before they reach out to you or before they purchase your product or service. And so that's what we want to do here. We don't want to link to company news. Also, I've seen other people linking to like job opportunities as well. You definitely don't need to do that in your ads. You might see big corporations do that, but that just means they're wasting ad spend, and it's an opportunity for you because you definitely don't need to. So let's jump over to the ads interface and I'll show you how to actually set these up. So from our ads and assets section of our Google Ads account, I'll click the blue plus button. I'll click on Sitelink here. And then at the very top, when I click account, you'll see that you'll be able to create site links for your entire account, specific campaigns, or specific ad groups. And it's important to note that there's a hierarchy here. So if you create one for an account and one for an ad group, then Google's going to assume that the one you created, the ad group level, is more important than the account one. It can get a little confusing, but for the most part, you're going to have the same across your entire account. Other ad assets, you're going to only want them for specific campaigns because they're so specific. So I'll go ahead and leave it at account here. And then I'll go ahead and start to drop in our site link information. So to save some time, I've used the Google Ads Playbook linked up in the description to write out some examples for a Facebook ads agency. And I'll just go ahead and copy and paste these over. So the first one is going to be a free audit. So this is going to be a lead magnet. And so when someone clicks this link, it'll be a landing page that says, hey, please give us your name and email, or just email, and we'll send you this free awesome audit to help you with your Facebook ads. And of course, we get contact information out of this, and that's the key with all of these. So the next two are going to be a case study and a contact us. And so contact us is pretty standard. We use that as an example several times earlier, but you pretty much, that's going to be, contact us is probably going to be one of your initial four. You do need to have four. Should have said that before. And then finally, we have free Facebook ad tools. And so if you have any sort of free tool or offer that you have on your site, you can go ahead and link that as well. So something to note here with this particular example, the free audit and the free ad tools, they're both related to Facebook ads, but they don't necessarily give people more information, but they're just designed to collect contact information. So maybe someone doesn't necessarily want to get on the phone with us, but they just want to learn more about how to actually improve their current Facebook ad performance. So that's what we do in this example. So you can, let's jump over here. So you can see this is what it looks like on mobile. And then if we jump over to desktop, you'll see that we'll have the actual little description here. It may or may not show the examples earlier. Some of the site links were just tiny at the bottom, and some of them had this larger ad real estate. It's totally up to Google. We don't know what they're going to decide to do, right? So we also have some advanced options here. This is where you can set a start and end date or a schedule for when these show up certain times a day. This is going to be really important when you get into things like promotions or discounts or pricing. But for the most part, site links, you're probably just going to have them the entire day. So we'll go ahead and click on save here. And then if you want to see your current site links for your entire account, again, I'm under ads and assets, and I'm under all campaigns here. And I can just go ahead and click on site link. And as you can see, we'll be able to see all of our site links here. And so that's all there is to it, to setting up your site links. Now, when it comes to callouts, there are only three things that we need to do. Highlight features of what we offer, then of course provide any sort of social proof, and then anything we can do to differentiate ourselves from our competitors or just provide some sort of benefits. So I'll skip down to the last example here. You can see they just list off a bunch of awards, and it's pretty much just look at how great we are. Then the one in the middle, the second one here, we have them talking about flexible pricing and optimizing, data-driven optimizing, proprietary technology, and complex media buying. Now, one of the things that's easy to fall into the trap of when you're creating your callouts is they'll just make no sense, or it's a feature that I don't think anyone would actually, your customers might not actually care about, or it's just kind of like a given. Like, of course, you're going to use data to optimize my campaigns. What else would you use, right? And so my attitude aside, you do want to make sure that you're making the most of this real estate, right? You're making the most of what's in these callouts. So you really want to focus on how can we show that we're unique or different. And so something like flexible pricing here, complex media buying, those are things that could speak to someone who doesn't want to go the typical agency model of being charged, or someone who thinks they have a really complex or omni-channel strategy that they need developed, versus saying data-driven optimizing or proprietary technology. So what? Like you need to ask that question of yourself when you're writing your callouts. So here's some examples of different things that you might want to focus on with your callouts. Of course, we do want to make sure that when we use industry terms, they are familiar to our customer, right? We don't want to come across as using business jargon. And so, of course, if you have any awards or certifications, accolades, you can talk about any sort of really quick way to communicate that clients really like working with you. And of course, if you're doing physical products, you can talk about free shipping or a very generous return policy. So let's go ahead, jump into the ads interface and start building out some callouts. So once you're inside of your Google Ads account, of course, you'll just go to Ads and Assets, click the blue plus button. We'll go ahead and select callout here. Now, as with all ad assets, or most ad assets, I should say, it's like one exception. You can do this in an account, campaign, or ad group level. Now, when it comes to these callouts, I'm going to go ahead and set them at the ad account level. But when it comes to your different campaigns, hopefully you've set them up in a way where each campaign is a different product or service. And so then you'd want to make callouts specific to that product or service, even if there's some overlap. And so to save us some time, I'll use the Google Ads Playbook linked up in the description with an example for a Facebook ads agency, which is, I always use that example. And so then we'll go ahead and drop in our callouts here, and you can see that they're showing up in the preview on the right-hand side. And so they're only 25 characters, so you don't have a ton to do here. But again, we're just listing out some key benefits or features of what we have to offer. If we can show some sort of proof or credibility, that is awesome as well. And then under advanced options, you do have the ability to do start and end dates. But for these, I wouldn't bother with these. These are pretty much always going to be relevant. And if you have any sort of promotion or time-sensitive pricing, then you should be using a different ad asset anyway. So we'll just come down here to save. And then if you want to see all of your callouts from your account or specific campaigns from your assets section, you can just go ahead and click on callout, and then you'll be able to see your list of callouts from there. So I'll jump back over to all. Now, when it comes to structured snippets, the best way to think of them is as a menu or catalog of services. Unlike some of the other ad assets, we're specifically talking about a specific product or service and different aspects of it, or just a general menu of whatever it is that you're offering. And so as you can see with this example, the moving company has different ways of saying, we move stuff when you need it moved, right? So let's go ahead and jump over to these examples here. And so these are just some different ideas of what you could start to kind of brainstorm and think of when it comes to creating your own structured snippets. For example, a travel agency would showcase the different destinations that they book through, or a restaurant could talk about the different menu items that they have or different cuisines that they have, or a e-commerce store could talk about the different shoe brands that they have or watch brands that they have, whatever they are offering. And so just think of this as a menu, a catalog, or more details on the specifics of the types of products or services that you offer. So Google does help us out with figuring out what to actually come up with. So let's jump into the interface here. I'll go and click the blue plus button under Assets, Ads and Assets, blue plus, and then we'll go ahead and click on Structured Snippet. And once we do, we can choose to have this at the account level, campaign, or ad group. Now for this particular one, I'm going to go ahead and say campaign, because structured snippets are specific to a product or service. And of course, we should have a separate campaign for each product or service that we have. So I'll go ahead and select the one that I have here, click on done. We have our demo campaign, and then we can go ahead and select header type. So this is important. This is all the options that we have available to us, because this is what's going to show up in the header section. So as an example, I'll go ahead and choose service catalog. and you'll see that it says service catalog, right? So we do need to make sure that we choose a option here that makes sense for our business, because it's going to say service catalog. So let's say Facebook Ads Agency here. We'll just go ahead and drop in a bunch of different platforms that we work on. So maybe someone really wants Facebook ads, but they want to know if the agency also does Instagram or Pinterest for whatever reason. I shouldn't have said Instagram, duh. I mean, if you do Facebook ads, you better do Instagram ads. So let's say Reddit ads for some reason, or Twitter or something like that. So of course we could go ahead and put in all the different services that we have. Google is going to choose which ones show up, right? So just because we put like 20 here, I don't think you can put 20, I've never tried, but just because you make this really long list doesn't mean every single one's going to show up. Google's going to decide what shows up under the service catalog here. So I'll go ahead and click over to show you what it looks like on desktop. And so you'll see we'll have description 1 and 2, and then you see you have Google Partner, ROI, contract-free, account ownership. Those are actually callouts. And then we have the structured snippet. And so sometimes the callouts will show up beforehand, sometimes they don't. That's why when you're creating these ad assets, always create them as standalone, because you don't know what other assets are going to be combined with them. So with that, we can go ahead and scroll down here. We can go ahead and click on Save. And then if we want to see our structured snippets, we just click structured snippet up here, and you can see that it's been saved as one group. And so if you want to make different combinations of structured snippets for different campaigns or different ad groups, then you can go ahead and do that and be really detailed if you want. But at the very least, the first time you're doing this, just go ahead, make some general ones for your top 2 or 3 campaigns, right? I definitely wouldn't want to do this at the account level because that's going to be too broad. And then of course you can always get more detailed from there. Now, when it comes to call assets, they're really easy, self-explanatory. They just have the phone number added to your ad, just like you can see with these examples. And so all we're going to do is jump into the interface and add your phone number. But what we do want to think about before we do that is, when do you want people to be calling you? So as an example, we'll say, let's say you have an office, you have maybe a receptionist who can take those phone calls, and you're doing them all day. Well, you don't want them to start exactly when you open, right? Because they just walked in the door. So maybe start at 9:30, and then you don't want to have calls right when you're trying to close down for the day. So maybe end at 4:30 or 4:15. Now, if you are the person taking the calls and you're like, well, I can't take calls all day, well, then maybe you just want to do a 1 or 2 hour block at lunchtime when people are on their lunch break. Maybe they're looking up something at Google. They're looking something up on Google. Your ad shows up, and then you can say, only show my phone number during lunchtime during the week, or only show my phone number in evenings or weekends, or whenever you're available to take those phone calls. So that way you're not stressed out having to have your phone next to you all the time and always picking up, because you're wasting ad spend if you're not picking up your phone. So that is a really easy way to make sure that you can use these extensions even if you don't have a dedicated person to always pick up the phone. So inside of Google Ads, under Ads and Assets, as usual, we'll go ahead and click the blue plus button here to set up your call, and we'll go ahead and click on call. I should say set up your phone number, but call anyway. So for our account, unless you're really fancy, you're just going to have one business phone number. So we'll go ahead and leave it at the account level. Go ahead and drop in our phone number here. I'm just using their copy. Please don't call this number. It's completely fake. And you can see over here on the preview where it's going to show up on mobile. And it's nice because someone can just click it. And because they're clicking this number from the ad, Google can easily track and count this as a conversion if you want it to be counted as a conversion. So when it comes to using the call settings, you can just go ahead and leave it at default. Until you get fancy with your conversion tracking, I got a little ahead of myself there, just leave it at account settings, calls from ads, and then advanced options. You definitely want to make sure that you don't have your call or your phone number there, at 1 a.m. in the morning. Unless you have someone to answer, then awesome, great. But unless you do, let's go ahead and make sure that we're not showing it all the time. So let's say we just want Monday through Friday. We'll do 9:30, and then we'll go ahead and do 4:15 p.m. So that way someone has time when they get into the office, and then they have time to close down at the end of the day. And we'll go ahead and click on save here. And then of course you can go ahead and click on call over here. And that's where you're going to be able to see all of your different phone numbers or call extensions. And so when it comes to if you're using any sort of fancy call forwarding system, you do want to double check Google's terms of service because they do have some things about, just redirecting calls to a completely different place. But for the most part, if you're on the up and up and you're not trying to scam people, you should be fine, even if you're using a third-party service to give you a bunch of virtual numbers. Now, when it comes to lead forms, these are unique compared to all the other types of assets in that they allow people to interact with your ad and give you the information you're looking for without ever hitting your site. And you can actually get pretty fancy with setting up campaigns that only have a lead form and don't direct people to your website, but we'll leave that for another day. So in this example, the first one here, we have a contest. And so the goal of this is, hey, get this awesome free thing, or potentially get this awesome free thing, if you give us your contact information. So that's an example of just trying to grow your contact or email list. The second one is designed to open up the sales conversation, which is the second goal that you might have for these types of ad asset. So whatever your goal is, you can try both or just stick to the one that makes the most sense for your business, product, or services. But generally, you're either going to be looking to grow your email list or you're going to be looking to start that sales conversation. So here's some examples of what you might want to do, whether it's offering a free consultation, maybe you're offering a free trial, or just trying to get someone on a demo to start that sales conversation, or you're going to offer some sort of free report, audit, or webinar to get people to join your email list. And so the sales conversation happens through an email sequence as opposed to trying to collect their contact information right off the bat. Now, when it comes to the lead form, what's cool is Google will autofill all of those form fields that you ask for. That they already have information for. However, you want to minimize the amount you actually ask for. So the minimum I think works is asking for their name and then either their email or their phone number. If you need both, okay, fine, go ahead and ask for both. But if your goal is to grow your email list, then just ask for their email. You're going to get a lot more people opting in. If your goal is to start that sales conversation, then you probably want the phone number more than the email. But of course, you can always test both, right? So you can create one form that only asks for the email. You can create another form that only asks for the phone number, and you could see which one does better over time. So definitely don't feel like you have to get it right on just one form or one part. So now let's talk about what you actually want to do with the form with this particular example. So at the top here, you'll have an image. I'll go through an example of what that looks like and the dimensions. You'll have your company name, and then you'll have about 200 characters of text, or I say about, but it is 200 characters of text where you tell people why they should opt in, right? So we want to talk about specific benefits of what we're offering. We want to talk about how it's going to help them overcome roadblocks, things that are getting in the way, or we could talk about results that they're after. So, and then once they enter their information, the confirmation is going to look something like this. And if you're focused on growing your email list, I know I'm spending a lot of time here. If you want to skip ahead to the timestamps below, if you want to just skip ahead to the interface, if you're growing your email list, tell them to go check their inbox. Don't send them someplace else unless you have another step in the sales process that's ready to go right now. And I'll show you what that how that works in a moment. But essentially what we want people to do is go open that email, because then it's going to help with the internet service provider knowing that you're not a spammer and whoever just joined your email list actually wants to open your email. So that's really important if you're thinking long-term in terms of getting people to open your emails and your emails actually being delivered, as opposed to internet service providers looking at your particular sender address as spam. Because if you get a bunch of people filling out these forms and then they never open the email, you're going to look like a spammer, and then it's not really going to work out well. So long-winded way of saying it's really important to tell people to go check their email. So here is an example. Let's say I'm offering a Facebook ads audit. I always go back to this example. So copy this roadmap to eliminate wasteful clicks and launch your own buyer campaigns so you can double your leads with the same budget you have now, get free access when you complete the form below. So if you have extra characters, telling people to complete the form below is really powerful. I know it sounds simple, like, well, of course they're going to complete the form. No, we need to tell them exactly what to do. Complete the form below. And as you can see here, we're telling them what they're going to get. They're going to get a roadmap, and it's going to help them overcome a roadblock that they're struggling with, which is wasteful clicks in their Facebook ads account. And we're going to help them get a result that they want. Double your leads. Now, of course, we do need to be careful with any sort of claims. 50-50 whether Google lets us say double your leads. So we might have to change that to say increase your leads, or potentially get more leads, or possibly get more leads, whatever takes up less characters. And then of course, on the same budget you have now is also handling a potential buyer objection. And so if we were doing this to grow our email list, then on the confirmation, we would say confirmed, check your inbox, right? So we want to say, hey, check your inbox. Or if we wanted to get fancy or kind of test the waters a little bit, as you can see with this description, it's saying, hey, it's on your way to your inbox in 5 minutes, but right now, check out this video, right? And this video could be a 5 or 10 minute, little sales video. But what you don't want to do is give them the offer right there. I know that seems counterintuitive. Google's going to force you to put a link there. So whatever link you put there, you could just have it go to a blank thank you page that says, check your inbox again. But whatever you do, force them to go to their inbox and open the email to get whatever it is that they opted in for. So enough about the copywriting and what we could do. Let's jump into the interface and build this thing. So under ads and assets, we'll go ahead and click the blue plus button. Timestamps below if I went through that too fast. I realized I started talking a little too fast there. So we'll go ahead and click on lead form, and then we'll click the account or campaign. Here, I'm just going to leave it at account. And then if you're doing this for the first time, you're going to have to accept their terms. So if I click on accept terms, you'll of course read through this. And this is essentially saying, hey, you're not going to turn around and sell their emails or spam their inbox or do something else that spammers do that ruin email marketing for the rest of us. So we'll go ahead and click on accept. And we'll kick things off by entering in our lead form headline. And so this is a headline that Google will potentially use as part of the ad. So you'll notice it's not actually going to show up here. And then we have our business name, and then we have the description. Now, just between you and me, the business name seems like a really big waste of real estate. Like I would want to put some sort of call to action there, or just say, I'd essentially take the headline and put it in business name again. Although I haven't really had the gall to test that because Google gets really mad when you try and circumvent things. But if you have that thought and you want to push the envelope, go for it. But I recommend just sticking with the business name. So I'll get off that little side rant that's probably not helpful, and we'll come down to contact information. So I'll go ahead and select name here, and then I'll do first and last name separately since we're looking to generate leads. And I know that the email service provider we would want to integrate with has the first and last name in separate fields. And so this is also important to think about if you are going to integrate with a CRM or a email autoresponder. You want to make sure that the format is actually going to make sense. So more on that in a little bit though. So we'll come down here. I'll go ahead and click on phone number and email. This is pretty much the maximum amount of information you want to ask for. And you can see here, these are saying pre-filled. So if someone's already logged into Google and they're browsing and Google has that information, they can go ahead and put that in there. Now, something to note with the email is if you're doing B2B, it might actually make more sense to come down here and select work email instead of this other email address, because Google's probably going to pull in their personal one. And of course, it's important that we get their work email address because that's the place that we are more likely to be read versus they're scrolling through their inbox on a lazy Sunday night and they go, oh yeah, this is work related stuff, I'll get to it later. And then, they're checking the wrong inbox Monday morning when they should be hopefully calling or responding to you. So the other information here, I would go ahead and leave alone until you start getting some data, because the more we ask for, the lower our conversion rates are ultimately going to be. And so it's better to have too many unqualified people and go, we should ask for more information to discourage all those tire clickers versus asking 21 questions right off the bat and then wondering why no leads are coming through the lead form. So we'll go ahead and scroll down here. This is an example of all the different types of questions you can ask. And again, I would recommend just starting with their name, first and last name, their email and or phone number, and then going from there. So if you really need this information and you know that you're going to get just way too many leads, then sure, go ahead and add it. But it makes more sense to slowly add barriers over time and kind of refine the traffic you're getting as opposed to try to get the perfect person right off the bat. And then again, wonder why you're only getting 1 or 2 leads a week when it's really just because we're asking for too much information up front. So we'll go ahead and jump down here. We can add a background image, but first we're going to go ahead and insert our privacy policy. So you do have to have a privacy policy just to advertise with Google in general. So you can just go ahead and drop in that URL there, and then we'll come down to add a background image. So when we do, you'll see that we need a image that's 1200 by 628. And so this is actually the same standard that you would use for any sort of discovery, performance max, or display ads. And so what I'd recommend doing here is just using a basic stock image because it's hard to know how exactly it's going to look on mobile or desktop. If you want to spend an hour trying to tweak it, make sure your writing is in the exact right place, go for it. But for time purposes here, I'm just going to upload a photo that I got from Canva, and I'll go ahead and select that. It's already the right dimensions, and I'll go ahead and click on save. And now you can see how it shows up in the lead form on mobile. So we'll go ahead and scroll down to creating the submission message. So this is what's going to show up once someone enters their contact information. So first, we'll go ahead and say confirmed, check your inbox because we want them to open that email. And then for our description, we'll just drop in a little text saying, hey, why don't you check out this cool video while you wait for the email to come to you? And then of course, in this video, we would tell them to also go check their inbox, or we'd have a call to action to book a call with us. So everything that we're doing here is pushing someone through the sales process and just giving them more information so they're comfortable either jumping on a phone call or ultimately purchasing whatever our product or service is. So for our call to action here, of course, we have a couple of options. I'm just going to go ahead and click on learn more. So someone clicks learn more to go watch the video. Again, I highly discourage having whatever your free offer is right here in this link. Force them to go open their email because that's going to help with your open rates moving forward with your email marketing. So I'll just go ahead and drop in a random page here. And then we'll come down to selecting our call to action for our ad. So this could be a little confusing, but this is what's going to show up before everything we just talked about. I don't know why it's at the bottom, but we'll go ahead and say download. And then we'll go ahead and change our call to action description to be Facebook ads audit. So you can see over here, it's going to say download and then Facebook ads audit. I probably should put free or limited offer or something like that. I don't think that would actually work with the character limit, but that's the preview of what it's going to look like. So once someone clicks this, then they'll actually see the lead form. So we'll scroll down again, lead form type. We have more volume or more qualified leads. How Google makes this determination, we will never know. And of course, you can, go through the terms that you are automatically agreeing to as you do this. And this is in addition to the terms you just accepted the first time you were setting this up. Lots of legal jargon, right? But I would recommend leaving this at more volume the first time you go through this process, because we would much rather have too many unqualified leads and then refine it down to these are really qualified people coming through the door versus trying to get that perfect fit right off the bat, because it's really hard to go backwards and try and go up the funnel as opposed to starting with a large breadth of people and then filtering and whittling them down. So that's like the third time I've said that. So let's go ahead and move on to the bottom here, which is export leads from Google. So Google does not offer us a direct way to take the leads that we're collecting and put them into whatever CRM you're using. You're going to have to use Zapier or Zapier or however you say it, because every other person seems to say it differently. I should look up how to actually say it. Maybe ChatGPT could help me with that. But anyway, you're going to have to use that third-party integration to connect this form to whatever email service provider or CRM that you are using. So you can use this search box to see if there is something set up, but pretty much any software you're using should have this set up. Although I add a little asterisk that I use the new version of MailerLite and it still doesn't work with this. So maybe you happen to use one of the few softwares that hasn't updated yet, but that's on MailerLite. Shame on them. They should definitely have that fixed by now. So anyway, I'll show you, you can also do something called a webhook, which is super fancy. That is above my head in terms of programming, but essentially it's a really fancy way of having the information directly ported over to your CRM. And I would recommend having a developer do that for you if you don't want to use Zapier or Zapier. So we'll go ahead and jump down to import conversions. This is something you'll leave alone for the first round of doing this. You can always get more advanced with your conversion tracking later, and Google's automatically going to track these as conversions and as leads. So we'll go ahead and click on save here. I'll come over here to lead form, and you can see CSV CRM. This is where you can go ahead and download your leads. And so if you're not zapping them over to someplace else, make sure you come in here at least every other day. You are paying good money for these leads, so you want to make sure that you're following up with them in a timely manner, or you have a virtual assistant come in here and download them for you. And with that, you're all set and good to go with your lead forms. Now, when it comes to location assets, as you can see with this example, all it does is add a clickable link over to Google Maps where someone can actually show up to your physical location. And to actually set this up, it has nothing to do with Google Ads. You need to set up something called a Google Business Profile so that you show up there. Now, you might actually be able to find your business, although there's like a 1 in 100 chance that actually works. So you want to head over to this site and start the process of setting up your Google My Business Profile or Google Business Profile or whatever they're calling it now, because they keep changing the name. And you can tell I get frustrated sometimes when Google changes names of stuff constantly. And what you'll want to do is wait for them to send you a postcard. Yes, Google is going to physically mail you something because they want to make sure that whatever location you say you're at, you are actually at that location. And so once you get that, you'll be able to enter a special code, you'll get your business profile, and then you can jump back over to Google Ads and set up your location, which is what we'll do now. So inside of Google Ads, of course, we are under Ads and Assets, and then we'll go ahead and click the blue plus button, and I'll go ahead and select location. And then this dialog box will pop up. If you already have a Google My Business Profile, it's going to be super easy. If you don't, and you want to see if Google already has found your business by some miracle, then you can go ahead and click on select curated locations and click on whatever country your business is in. And then you can go ahead and search for it. For the most part though, these seem completely random. And as you can see here, like And Other Stories or And Pizza, Cloud Smoke and Vape Co., a Zipline Tour, One Hotel, these are very, very random. So the chances of your business actually being on this list is quite small. If you had someone set it up in the past or you're not sure who has access to your Google Business Profile, you can actually drop in your domain and try and find that email here and have it sent to you, or figure out who you need to talk to get access to it. Otherwise, you'll want to come back over here to link your account, and you can click to manage your business profile here. You'll go over to this same website and page. If you don't already have a Google Business Profile, this is where you can set one up for free. Get that postcard. Yes, it's an involved process, but it's definitely worth it because most businesses don't bother to do this. There are a lot of businesses on Google Maps that have actually never claimed their profile. So you can go ahead and get that set up. And then I'll just jump back over here and show you a preview again, that this is what it will look like. And optionally, you can also have your phone number added to it. And this is essentially just going to make it very easy for people to like search a hotel, local pizza joint, or whatever they're looking for. Your ad pops up, they can click on the location, and just like that, they're using whatever navigation they want to find you and your physical location. And so if you want to check out your locations, you can always click under here. As of the time I'm recording this, it's under legacy. Hopefully by the time you see it, it's on this top list. Google's always changing stuff, and your locations will be here. And of course you can go through changing which locations you have, especially if you have multiple ones. You can use something called affiliate locations as well. Now, when it comes to pricing extensions, these work really well for e-commerce and fixed price services. More on that in a moment. So with this particular example, you could see someone can click the more icon and then a drop down of pricing for different categories or different types of offers or products that they have shows up. Now, how much is shown in a Google ad is totally up to Google, right? So we'll give them a bunch of information and then they will decide how much they do or do not want to show, just like every other ad asset. Now, when it comes to services, I'll go through a services example, but you need to make sure that whatever you're offering, if you're using this particular ad asset as a service-based business, that it's a fixed service. So as an example, if someone's coming in for a teeth cleaning or someone needs their dog groomed, those are pretty much, you know what they're going to cost. Or if it's something like a haircut where there are different pricing tiers, but it's not based upon the time. Someone can come in and they know, okay, this level of haircut is $20. And if you want the shampoo and massage, then it's, 40 or whatever it winds up being. The point here is, if you're doing this for services, it needs to be something that is actually fixed and not variable. So as a quick example, if you want to skip this little story, here's the timestamp to do that. When I worked as a mover, our moving company would offer a flat rate for moving, but in the fine print, they would say that it only covers 2 hours. Now, between you and me, have you ever been able to move out of a place and then move into another one, irrespective, even if they're next door to each other, in less than 2 hours? Definitely not. So we always had that awkward conversation of, hey, it's been 2 hours and I know half your stuff is strewn all over your lawn, but if you don't agree to pay us more money, we're just going to leave, right? So you don't want to do that to your customers. Obviously, all of our moving customers happily said yes, and then we found out that they were unhappy because then we got a terrible tip. But hey, the company made more money and that's what they were concerned about, not necessarily our tip or people yelling at us. So I digress. The point is, you don't want to put your customers in that situation where you have a certain price in the ad and then they start working with you or getting through something and then you're like, oh, well, actually your yard is way bigger than I thought, right? And I just quoted you a flat price and I forgot to think about the square footage of your yard or driveway for my landscaping services, right? So I probably spent way too much time on that. So let's go ahead and go through some examples of what you might do with your pricing. So obviously, if you have any sort of discounts or if you have any sort of doorbuster offers, and so this is where you might have an offer that is significantly cheaper than your competitors. So you can include this in your ad and you can say up to or starting from, or you'd say starting from $14.99 or starting from $54.99. And as long as you have one product, you're good to go there. So for example, a clothing store might have dresses starting at $24.99 and maybe only one dress is $24.99 and the rest are like $50 or $60. Or maybe you have a software company that has various pricing plans and you can highlight those in the ad. Or maybe we're looking at a travel agency providing packages and maybe the bare bones basic 4-day tour starts at $2.99 and goes up from there. So essentially what you want to do is look around whatever you have to offer and choose the cheapest thing and put that in the ad to get people to click. And of course, we've all had that experience on Black Friday, Cyber Monday. You see that big sign says everything's 70% off, and then you walk through the door and it's like socks, right? And then everything else is like 15 or 20%. You go, come on, really? Really? Well, we all saw what happened to JCPenney when they tried the everyday low pricing strategy. So it might seem gimmicky, but it definitely works. So start with your low prices to get people in the door. You can always change things if you get too many tire kickers. All right, spent way too much time on that. Let's go ahead, jump into the ads interface and build this out. So under ads and assets, as usual, for everything we do with ad assets, we'll go ahead and click on the plus button. I'll come down to price. And of course, we can do this at the account or campaign level. I'm going to go ahead and select an individual campaign here, click on done. And that's because I want these prices to be specific to whatever the campaign's actually about. And then you can go ahead and select type here. Now they have lots of options, but I'm just going to go ahead and select service tiers. And then if you have any qualifiers, as in starting from or up to or average, I like using from because that allows us to put the lowest price possible and make us look really, really good, even though if it's the bare bones service. Sometimes that's just what we need to get people in the door. So I'm going to say from, and then I'll just say Facebook ads optimization from $4.95. And then we can do units. So it can be a flat rate if it's just a one-time thing. But since this is going to be a service, I'm going to go ahead and say per month. So it's $4.95 per month. And this is also where you can get clever. I'll show you in a moment. Maybe you want to do it per week or per day or per hour because it allows you to have the perceived cost much lower than what it's ultimately going to be, especially if you have a variable service. Obviously, e-commerce is a lot more straightforward. So we'll go ahead and drop in a quick little description here. It's only 25 characters, not going to be able to do too much with it. And then of course the final URL. So this is important. You want this final URL to be the sales page for whatever the product or service is. Don't send everyone to the homepage, right? We're segmenting people based upon what they specifically want. So I'll go ahead and skip the mobile URL for now, and I'll quickly go through these next two. So I'll drop in, let's say, Facebook ads writing, and it's going to be 30 per hour. And then we'll have Facebook ad reporting from $10 a week, right? So it winds up being about $40 a month. So, but $10, if we come back up to our example here, I'm going to go over to desktop so you can see. So now we can say $10 a week. So it is $40 a month, because or some months might have a little more depending upon the weeks. But what we're doing here is we're allowing ourselves the ability to have a lower perceived cost to getting started. So would you want to bill someone $10 a week for that kind of service? Probably not. It's kind of silly, and it's probably going to rack up more credit card merchant account fees than you really need to deal with. But if it gets someone through the door, it's a really good option, because now instead of saying 40 or 50 bucks a month for basic reporting, now someone sees $10 a week. And so it's just a much lower number. I think I've said that enough. So let's go ahead and publish this thing. So I'll go ahead and click on save at the bottom. I can come over here to price, and you'll see that price, everything that we just put together is in one block. So this is also important if you have different campaigns that are offering different combinations of offers or pricing tiers. You can, of course, test them. So maybe you have this one shows things on a monthly or hourly basis, and then the next one shows them on a weekly or flat fee basis, right? So you can also play with what the pricing is, and Google will try and figure out which types of pricing that you're presenting works the best in terms of getting you customers. So there's a lot to test here. And of course, just keep in mind that as you create those different pricing tiers or, different hourly rates or weekly rates, those are all going to be in one asset. So you can create those multiple assets to test out those different way that you're pricing things. I said the same thing twice, didn't I? I said the same thing twice. That's all there is to it, to setting up your pricing. Now, when it comes to promotion assets or promotion extensions, the whole point is there's a holiday, so we're giving you a discount. That's pretty much exactly what this is designed to do. So choose whatever holiday makes the most sense and then provide some sort of discount. This could be a bundle deal or some sort of % off, but essentially we're giving them a deal because it's some sort of specific holiday. Now, you don't actually have to choose a holiday, and it's okay if the holiday has nothing to do with your business. It's pretty much just an excuse saying, hey, it's St. Patrick's Day, so here's 20% off, right? It's just how retail has developed and worked. So when it comes to setting these up, Google actually has a lot of different ones for us to choose from. So let's jump into the ads interface and choose a holiday. So we'll come in here to, of course, ads and assets, probably sick of hearing that by now. So we'll go ahead and click the blue plus button, come down here to promotions, and I'm going to go ahead and do this at the campaign level because I want this to be specific to an offer that's being promoted in this campaign. So we'll go and click on done. So we'll go ahead and click to occasion. You can see here we have all sorts. Of course, pick whichever one is closest, and depending upon what time of year you're doing this, just make sure you have a basic understanding of what this holiday actually is, right? Because some of these, it probably wouldn't actually make much sense to do, but I will leave that up to you. To keep things simple, I'll go ahead and click on none here. I'll select monetary discount up to % discount, and then I'll go ahead and select 70. So what's cool about this, and every retailer does this, but whatever is in terms of your ethics per se, is a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll find one offer, they'll make it the super crazy discount, and then you'll say up to 70% off this particular item or type of item, and then maybe just do a 40 or 50% discount on everything else. And pretty much every Fortune 500 retailer does this. So it's really cool because you can say up to 70% off, even though only one item is actually 70% off. I know when I say it out loud, it sounds terrible. And then you think about every store you've ever shopped at, and that's literally what they do. So you might as well enjoy the consumer psychology for yourself. So we'll go ahead and click on item here. I'll just say men's watch overstock. And then for the final URL, I'll just drop in a random one here. I'm just using men's watch overstock as an example. So if you could do sale or discount or overstock, some sort of word in addition to whatever is being offered to show that to help explain that it's a discount. So in this particular instance, I'm saying overstock. Probably isn't. I mean, you go to overstock.com, a lot of that stuff isn't actually overstock. They're just selling it there. And so we just use these phrases to help reinforce the message that this is a deal and it's a limited time. Of course, do make sure it's a limited time. I think that's probably where the ethical line is for most people. So we'll come down here to promotion details, and you can optionally add a promo code. So I'm going to add one here so you can see. Personally, I'm not a fan of promo codes because then when someone doesn't remember the promo code or someone hasn't seen it, they go to the website, they're checking out, and then they see that promo code box. And we've all seen it. You go, wait, am I paying more than I should for this product? Is there a promotion someplace that I didn't know about? So I don't want our customers thinking that. So I tend to leave this alone, but I'll leave it here just so you can see what it looks like in the preview. And so then we'll come down here and we can display a promotion date. I highly recommend display a promotion date to add some real urgency to this offer. So in this particular instance, I'm just going to say it runs for a month. So now you can see it's valid from June 1st to June 30th. And then finally, we have to set up our scheduling. So this is a little weird where let's say we were doing Mother's Day or something like that. I actually don't remember if that was on there. St. Patrick's Day. I know that was there, right? So let's say we're doing a St. Patrick's Day special. Well, Google isn't going to automatically make your ad run only during St. Patrick's Day week or weekend. So we do have to set these dates and make sure that we're not saying, hey, 70% off for St. Patty's Day, and it's like December, right? So we'll go ahead and add our start and end dates the same as the valid date. That way we don't have invalid promotions running. And hours of the day, I would go ahead and leave those alone. So I'll go down here, click on save, and then we can come over here to promotions to see our list. You probably want to check in on this at least once or twice a month just to see how the promotions went. Make sure the ones that were ending actually ended on time and you didn't fat finger accidentally make it a month more than it should be. And then of course, over time, you'll see which holidays and what types of promotions begin to work the best for your business, product, and service. And with that, we are all set and good to go, setting up all of your ad assets with the exception of apps. We went ahead and skipped that one. So hit that like button if you're still watching and make sure you click that link in the cards and the description to our Google Ads Playbook. This is really going to help you shortcut your keyword research process and of course help you with the copywriting for the most important part of your ad, which is your headline and of course the ad text itself. And if you're already running your campaigns, we have a detailed audit that you can go through step by step, the different parts of your campaigns to look at to reduce your wasted ad spend, cutting your cost per click to help you boost your conversions. So subscribe for more marketing guides just like this one and ones that are a whole lot shorter. And until the next, keep building the business you love.